morning, students. Today we're going to continue enjoying stories by Dr. Seuss. Let's take a look at our morning message. March 24th, 2020. Dear students, we have been enjoying stories by Dr. Seuss. How can you tell if a story was written by Dr. Seuss? Mrs. Kilmer. Let's reread the last question and make sure we know what we're supposed to be thinking about. How can you tell if a story was written by Dr. Seuss? So I'm going to think back to some of the stories. We had Green Eggs and Ham. We had the books from the book I brought to school, which had Starbelly Sneetches, and What Was I Afraid Of, and the one, I can't remember the name, but about the two creatures that were both going north and south, the north and south going Zaxes. And I'm trying to think between that and the story we read yesterday about Yertle the turtle. I'm getting a picture in my mind of what was in those stories, what the illustrations look like, what they were about. Do you have in mind some things that are the same across Dr. Seuss stories? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today for a minute before we enjoy our next story. So students, I'm really excited. I found this cool kind of little flyer, this Scholastic News, that really has some great information about Dr. Seuss. So this is Dr. Seuss. I think many of us already know what he looks like. He wrote and illustrated 45 books. When you pick up a book, how can you tell if he wrote it? And here, the Cat in the Hat has a think bubble. It says, you can look on the cover. His name is right there. Then open the book. You'll find clues everywhere. So let's take a look at what they mean by that. Here we go. It says, how can you tell it's Seuss? So we're going to go frame by frame because there are these really interesting characteristics to think about. Number one, look for silly characters. His characters have a look. Many of them have big bellies and scraggly fur. Many of them have a black outline. Many of them are made-up creatures. So there you have the Lorax, the Grinch, and from Hop on Pop. Next, look for zany stories. Dr. Seuss wrote fiction. Fiction is made up. The fiction of Dr. Seuss is really wild. Events happen that would never happen in real life. And there's a picture from Green Eggs and Ham. I'm sure you all recognize that. But Sam I Am, my favorite character, because my dad's name was Sam, and my big son's name is Sam. Look for wacky machines. Dr. Seuss drew machines with gears, hooks, handles, and cranks. Some have hands and legs. His vehicles often have extra wheels and propellers. And this is from a book, actually I also read in school before we left, from Marvin K. Mooney, Will You Please Go Now? Look at that incredible machine he's going to drive or walk away on. Okay, also look for funny rhymes. I think this is the one that most kids get right away. Many of his books rhyme. Those rhymes make us laugh. They're surprising. He often put more than one rhyme in a sentence. So this is from One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish. My shoe is off, my foot is cold. I have a bird I like to hold. Okay, along the bottom, it also points out that you could be on the lookout for made-up words. Dr. Seuss had a lot of fun with his writing. He made up many words and names. Do you think these made-up words look like their pictures? Okay, let's take a close-up look at this. This is a Zizzer Zazzer Zuss. I remember reading about that, but I can't remember what book it's in. Here are Goo Goo Goggles. I'm sorry, can you see that? The reflection's a little bright. And this is a Gritch, a kind of bird that's a bit of a creature. And then here's one funny little cute detail about his illustrations. Look at the eyes. All the eyes he drew had U-shaped pupils. Okay, there's a fun last fact. So these are all characteristics that help you with the question, how can you tell it's Dr. Seuss? Welcome back, students. Let's go ahead and enjoy our Dr. Seuss story for today. Okay, this is from the same book, Yertle the Turtle and Other Stories. And this story is called Gertrude McFuzz. Ooh, looks like it's a story about bird kinds of creatures. There once was a girl bird named Gertrude McFuzz, and she had the smallest plain tail ever was. One droopy droop feather, that's all that she had. And, oh, that one feather made Gertrude so sad. For there was another young bird that she knew, a fancy young birdie named Lolly-Loo. And instead of one feather behind, she had two. Poor Gertrude, whenever she happened to spy Miss Lolly-Loo flying by in the sky, she got very jealous. She frowned and she pouted. Then one day she got awfully mad and she shouted, "This just isn't fair. I have one, she has two. I must have a tail, just like Lolly-Loo." So she flew to her uncle, a doctor named Dake, whose office was high in a tree by the lake. And she cried, "Uncle Doctor, oh please do you know of some kind of pill that will make my tail grow?" "Tut, tut," said the doctor, "such talk, how absurd. Your tail is just right for your kind of bird." Then Gertrude had tantrums. She raised such a din is like a lot of noise, angry noise, that finally her uncle the doctor gave in. And he told her just where she could find such a pill, on a pillberry vine on the top of the hill. "Oh, thank you," chirped Gertrude McFuzz, and she flew right straight to the hill where the pillberry grew. Oh, I think she's going to get the pill. Here we go. Yes, there was the vine, and as soon as she saw it, she plucked off a berry. She started to gnaw it. It tasted just awful, almost made her sick, but she wanted that tail, so she swallowed it quick. Then she felt something happen. She felt a small twitch, as if she'd been tapped down behind by a switch. And Gertrude looked round and she cheered. It was true. Two feathers, exactly like Lolly-Loo. Then she got an idea. "Now I know what I'll do." I see ellipses. Oh no, what's going to happen? "I'll grow a tail better than Lolly-Loo. These pills that grow feathers are working just fine." So she nibbled another one off of the vine. Oh, now students, stop and think, what do you think's going to happen? First she had one, now she has two, but that wasn't enough. What's she gonna do? Hey, I can rhyme too. Okay, let's see what happens. I think some of you are already guessing. She felt a new twitch, and then Gertrude yelled, "Whee! Miss Lala has only just two, I have three. When Lolly-Loo sees this beautiful stuff, she'll fall right down flat on her face, sure enough. I'll show her who's pretty, I certainly will. Why, I'll make my tail even prettier still." She snatched at those berries that grew on that vine. She gobbled down 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And she didn't stop eating, young Gertrude McFuzz, till she'd eaten 3 dozen. That's all that there was. Oh no, I think something not so good is going to happen. Well, it's actually quite pretty. Then the feathers popped out. With a zing, they blossomed like flowers that bloom in the spring, all fit for a queen. What a sight to behold! They sparkled like diamonds and gumdrops and gold. Like silk, like spaghetti, like satin, like lace, they burst out like rockets all over the place. They waved in the air and they swished in the breeze, and some were as long as the branches of trees. And And still, they kept growing. They popped and they popped until long about sundown, when finally they... Did you guess stopped? Got to remember to do the rhymes. And now, giggled Gertrude, the next thing to do is to fly straight home and show Lala-Lee-Loo. And when Lala sees these, why, her face will get red, and she'll let out a scream, and she'll fall right down dead. I think Gertrude is thinking that Lala-Lee-Loo will be so jealous or frustrated or mad that Gertrude now has more feathers, that she'll be so mad and frustrated she'll fall down dead. Well, I hope she doesn't really think that, but I think she does want her to get mad. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Then she spread out her wings to take off from the ground. But with all of those feathers, she weighed 90 pounds. She yanked and she pulled and she let out a squawk. But that bird couldn't fly, couldn't run, couldn't walk. And all through that night, she was stuck on that hill. And Gertrude McFuzz might be stuck up there still if her good Uncle Dake hadn't heard the girl yelp. He rushed to her rescue and brought along help. To lift Gertrude up almost broke all their beaks, and to fly her back home, it took almost 2 weeks. And then it took almost another week more to pull out those feathers. My, Gertrude was sore. Oh, wow. So they had to remove or pluck out all the feathers because she just couldn't manage. She just couldn't get around. Oh, but she looks happy in the end. And finally, when all of the pulling was done, Gertrude behind her again just had one. That one little feather she had as a starter. But now that's enough, because now she is smarter. Well, I hope you enjoyed that story. Now, let's think about asking ourselves a few questions. So, students, I said that we'll ask ourselves a couple of questions, but we're going to do things differently today. I'm going to ask you to talk to your parents at home about these questions. I'll just review the questions quickly, and then I want you to think of the answers, and I hope a few of you will email me with what you think about this book. So, the first question, you want to make sure you know what happened. What was the plot? Can you say to yourself, in the beginning this happened, then, or in the middle, or next, and then finally, in the end, what happened? Second question I want you to talk about with your parents is, what did we learn? What was the lesson or moral of the story? There might be just one lesson. Maybe you can think of another one, okay? So I want you to think about that, talk about it with your parents, and send me an email. Okay, I'll see you later this afternoon. We're going to enjoy a beautiful nonfiction book, but that's very artistic with lots of neat artwork in it. That's called Looking at Lincoln. See you later.